What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Saturday, July 31st.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate.
And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Okay guys, we have a 9-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the pitcher position. So I like Aaron Nola. He's in a good spot here. He's pitching against a low salary batting team, the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's only giving up a .642 OPS versus righties and a .562 OPS versus switch hitters. He's facing 5 righties and 2 switch hitters, and the Pirates have hit 10 of his last 41 pitches. That's a .244 batting average. He's $11,000 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,300 less on DraftKings. Projected at 29 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 4.37. His record is 7-6 on the season, pitching an average of 90 pitches per game, averaging 32 fantasy points per game. He scored 6, 60, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Aaron Nola here versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now I also like Brandon Woodruff pitching against the Atlanta Braves. Brandon Woodruff, he's a balanced pitcher, only giving up a .510 OPS to lefties, a .578 OPS to righties, and a .515 OPS versus switch hitters. And he's got a balanced lineup here tonight: 3 lefties, 4 righties, and 2 switch hitters. And the Braves have only hit 9 of his last 40 pitches. That's a .225 batting average. He's $10,800 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,000 less on DraftKings. Projected at 30.3 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 2.14. His record is 7-5 on the season, pitching an average of 95 pitches per game, averaging 41 fantasy points per game, and he scored 43, 35, and 31 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Brandon Woodruff here versus the Atlanta Braves. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. I like Pete Alonso with a 64% batting advantage over Wade Miley. Pete Alonso bats 6% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .869 OPS versus lefties. And Wade Miley, he pitches his worst ball by far to righty batters, 58% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .919 OPS versus righties. Pete Alonso is 2 for 3 with a .667 batting average and a 2.334 OPS versus Miley. One of those 2 hits is for a home run. He's $3,800 FanDuel salary. He's $1,900 more on DraftKings. Projected at 10.9 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 22, and 6 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Pete Alonso here versus Wade Miley. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Jonathan India with a 34% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Rich Hill. Jonathan India is batting 20% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .992 OPS versus lefties. And Rich Hill, he pitches 14% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .621 OPS versus righties. Now there's no at-bats versus Hill yet, and Jonathan India is $3,100 FanDuel salary. He's 2,200 more on DraftKings, so I love that FanDuel price. Projected at 10.6 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 53, 6, and 12 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Jonathan India here versus Rich Hill.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I like Jose Ramirez with a 40% batting advantage over a low-salary pitcher, Dallas Keuchel. Jose Ramirez is batting 24% better versus lefty pitchers. He's batting a 1.128 OPS versus lefties. And Dallas Keuchel, he throws his worst ball versus switch hitters. 16% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .731 OPS versus switch hitters. Jose Ramirez is 7 for 21, batting a .333 batting average and a .888 OPS versus Keuchel. Jose Ramirez is 4,100 FanDuel salary. He's 1,800 more on DraftKings. Projected at 12.6 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 10, 19, and 25 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Jose Ramirez here versus Dallas Keuchel. I also like Justin Turner with a 36% batting advantage over Merrill Kelly. Justin Turner is batting 13% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a .898 OPS versus righties. And Merrill Kelly, he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters. 23% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .784 OPS versus righties. Justin Turner is 3 for 9, batting a .333 batting average and a .744 OPS versus Kelly. He's 3,400 FanDuel salary, 1,700 more on DraftKings, projected at 14.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 3, and 10 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Justin Turner here versus Merrill Kelly. Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. I like Ahmed Rosario with a 28% batting advantage over the low-salary pitcher Dallas Keuchel. Ahmed Rosario is batting 26% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .778 OPS versus lefties. And Dallas Keuchel, he pitches a little bit worse versus righties as he does lefties, giving up a .622 OPS versus righties. But I like this pick because Ahmed Rosario is 5 for 14, batting a .357 batting average and a .714 OPS versus Keuchel. Ahmed Rosario is 2,700 FanDuel salary. He's 1,600 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.8 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 12, 0, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Ahmed Rosario here versus Dallas Keuchel. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. I got a stud pick for you. I like Juan Soto with a 13% batting advantage over Kyle Hendricks. Juan Soto, he bats 4% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .074 OPS versus righties. And Kyle Hendricks, he throws his worst ball versus lefty batters, 9% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .783 OPS versus lefties. Juan Soto is 4 for 8, batting .500 with a 1.125 OPS versus Hendricks. He's $4,200 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,600 more on DraftKings. He's projected at 13.2 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 9, and 32 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Juan Soto here versus Kyle Hendricks. Okay, now I got a value play for you. I like Tyrone Taylor with a 54% batting advantage over Kyle Muller. Tyrone Taylor is batting 7% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .842 OPS versus lefties. And Kyle Muller, he pitches 47% worse to righties as he does lefties. He's giving up a .589 OPS versus righties. So he's facing a good pitcher here tonight, and there's no at-bats versus Muller yet. But the reason I like this pick is because Tyrone Taylor is only $2,300 FanDuel salary and $300 more on DraftKings. Projected at 9.1 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season, and he's been on fire, scoring 10, 31, and 13 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Tyrone Taylor as a value play here versus Kyle Muller.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.